Good morning and welcome to day 4 of our annual Heritage Month webinar series. We want to thank you all for joining us today and thank you for joining us for the last 3 days as well. Today's program is looking at innovating for resilience, sustainable solutions for heritage futures, and our wonderful and lovely program director for today is Ms. Kim Morgan. I would now like to introduce the CEO of the South African Heritage Resources Agency, Advocate Lungisa Malkas, for the welcome and opening.
And all participants joining us from across South Africa and beyond. It is my great privilege on behalf of South African Heritage Resources Agency to welcome you to our annual Heritage Month webinar, taking place from the 16th to the 19th of September 2025. This year, our gathering is guided by the theme, Resilient Heritage, Safeguarding South Africa's Legacy in a Changing Climate, aligned with G20 priority focus on climate change and disaster risk management. This theme could not be more timely. Across the globe, and indeed here at home, we are witnessing the devastating impacts of climate change, floods, droughts, fires, and rising sea levels that threaten not only our environment, but also cultural and historical fabric that connects us to our past and shapes our identity. Heritage is more than monuments, archives, or landscapes. It is also the living traditions, practices, and stories passed from generation to generation. As climate change accelerates, so too does the risk of losing irreplaceable heritage, particularly in vulnerable communities. This calls for urgent action, innovative solutions, and inclusive approaches to ensure that our shared legacy is protected for future generations. Over the next 4 days, this webinar will take us on a journey. We will begin by understanding the threats of our heritage faces in changing climate. We will then turn to the role of disaster risk management and explore the policies and practices needed to safeguard heritage during times of crisis. We will listen to the voices of our heritage community, our custodians of knowledge and resilience, who remind us that climate justice must also be cultural justice. And finally, we will look forward exploring how technology, innovation, and sustainable practices can help us adapt and build resilience for the future. I wish to extend my deepest gratitude to our partners, speakers, and participants who have joined us in this important dialogue. Your insights, your expertise, and your commitment are vital to advancing the protection of our heritage in the face of climate emergency. As we reflect, engage, and share over the coming days, let us be guided by a simple truth. Heritage is not a luxury, but necessity. It grounds us, unites us, and lights the way forward. Even in times of uncertainty, together, we can ensure that South Africa's heritage not only survives, but thrives as a source of resilience and inspiration for generations to come. I thank you, and I look forward to the rich discussions that lie ahead. And at this point, I would like to introduce my newly appointed chairperson of SARA, Ms. Elodie Tlwaele.
Morning, distinguished guests.
Thank you so much, CEO, for that wonderful message. Without any delay, I'd now like to introduce the newly elected chairperson of the SARA Council, Ms. Elodie Tlowele.
Partners and friends of heritage, it is an honor to join you today as we open the South African Heritage Resources Agency's annual Heritage Month webinar, held from the 16th to the 19th of September 2025. Each year, this platform allows us to reflect, to engage, and to act in the spirit of Heritage Month, at a time when our nation comes together to celebrate the richness of our past, the strength of our diversity, and the promise of our future. This year's commemoration carries special significance as we situate our discussions within the global context of the G20 theme, climate change and disaster risk management. Heritage Month reminds us that heritage is not just about memory. It is about continuity. It is about ensuring that the cultural, historical, and spiritual treasures that have been entrusted to us are safeguarded against the challenges of our time. Chief among them, the existential threat of climate change. South Africa is both blessed and challenged in this regard. We are blessed with a heritage of extraordinary richness, from iconic archaeological sites and battlefields to sacred landscapes, built environments, and vibrant living conditions. Yet we're challenged by the growing risks of floods, droughts, fires, and rising seas, forces that threaten not only our environment, but also the places, practices, and identities that define who we are. As chairperson of SARA, I believe that this Heritage Month calls on us to renew our commitment to stewardship. We must embrace both local knowledge and global frameworks. We must align our efforts to the priorities of the G20 while ensuring that South Africa's voice is strong, rooted in realities and reflective of our communities. In doing so, we affirm that the protection of heritage is inseparable from the pursuit of sustainability, resilience, and justice. Over the next 4 days, we will explore together how heritage can be protected in the face of climate change, how communities can lead in building resilience, and how innovation can light the way forward. These conversations are not theoretical, they're essential. Without action, we risk losing the very legacy that binds us together as South Africans and part of the global community. On behalf of the Council of SARA, I thank all of you for joining us during this Heritage Month. Let us use this moment not only to celebrate our heritage, but also to safeguard it, so that generations yet to come may inherit a legacy of strength, of resilience, and pride. I wish you fruitful deliberations and a very successful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairperson of the SARA Council. And now I'd like to introduce the Executive Officer for Heritage Resources Management at SARA, Ms. Mamakamoreng Nkasi Sona, for the purpose of the webinar.
Colleagues, good morning to CEO. Good morning to our guests. Ben, I don't know who we have in the audience, but we do appreciate the attendance today. It is one of the series that we have every year that now our Heritage Week webinar has become a norm within SARA. And I think, Ben, this is our 4th year, but every year feels like the first year every time. And so as we embark on this week, what we are doing as Heritage with the rest of the heritage sector is to try and remember, you know, when I will give an example of the developers with the communities, where there may be a disagreement, the last resort that the communities always go to is heritage. And one wonders that, you know, when everything almost fails, you remember your roots, you remember who you are. And so Heritage Week and Heritage Month within South Africa, I think it is that time when we take a pause and try to remember our cultures, and within South Africa, very diverse cultures. And this week, the SARA team has worked very hard to try and get us in this reflections in various days with various themes within which our guests will engage in conversations with the participants for us to understand the broad spectrum of heritage management within the context of how heritage is impacted today in times of disasters, in times of climate change. And so as we look for the tools, as we explore where we are at, we really call upon your engagements all, that we may come at the end of the fourth day, that we will come up with the solutions and the tools that can benefit heritage resources management, better promotion and better conservation and protection of the heritage resources. And so my task, as I've been asked here, is really to say, engage thoroughly as much as possible to a degree that we will be able to come up with the solutions. We thank you for your time over the 4 coming days. And we are looking forward to really open, engaging discussions.
Thank you so much for the wonderful message, Komi. And now, as we get into our main session, I am honored to hand over to our lovely program director, Ms. Kim Morgan.
All right, thank you, Ben. A very good morning to all of our distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. As introduced by Ben, my name is Kim Tina Morgan, PM Unit Officer in the Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Unit. And it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you this morning as your Program Director for the day. Okay, so today marks the last and final day of our 4-day webinar under the theme Innovating for Resilience, Sustainable Solutions for Heritage Futures. Day 4 will explore cutting-edge tools and solutions from digital preservation and smart monitoring systems to green materials and sustainable conservation practices. Today's program will also examine funding models and strategic partnerships that can enable long-term resilience. This closing day offers a forward-looking vision of how the heritage sector can adapt and thrive in a rapidly changing world. So just to give a recap on the last 3 days, day 1 looked at the heritage at risk, climate change, and our cultural legacy. Day 2 looked at disaster risk management and the heritage sector from policy to practice. And lastly, day 3, which was yesterday, looked at restitution of cultural property. Okay, so before I introduce the first speaker, I would like to give a disclaimer. So please feel free to engage in the chat box by posing questions and making any comments on presentations that will be made here today, and we will be taking those questions and comments after each presentation. So please feel free as well to raise your hands, and please don't forget to kindly mute your mics. So without wasting any of your time, please help me welcome our first speaker of the day, who is our very own Ms. Natasha Higgett. Just a brief summary, Natasha is our Development Applications Unit Manager, and she'll be giving us a presentation under the title Strategic Heritage Assessments in South Africa, Building Resilient and Inclusive Planning Frameworks. Over to you, Natasha.
Thank you so much. All right. So good morning, everyone. Today's presentation will examine the need for the integration of heritage resources within development planning to identify early risks and opportunities for sustainable development. This presentation aims to introduce the concept of the strategic heritage assessment within the South African context. It advocates for the early identification of heritage resources in spatial planning to mitigate risks and unlock development opportunities. The goal is to encourage collaboration among heritage authorities, government departments, and planners to integrate SHA into existing frameworks. By doing so, stakeholders can ensure that heritage considerations are proactively addressed, leading to more resilient and inclusive planning outcomes. So, strategic heritage assessment is a proactive, spatially informed approach to heritage management that emphasizes the early identification and integration of heritage resources into planning processes. Unlike traditional reactive assessments, such as our typical heritage impact assessments, SHA seeks to embed heritage considerations from the outset, ensuring that development is both respectful of cultural assets and aligned with sustainability goals. It focuses on resilience by anticipating potential conflicts and inclusivity by involving diverse stakeholders in the planning process. Currently, heritage impact assessments are conducted for very specific developments, and this leads to a fragmented understanding of the heritage landscape. Heritage resources do not exist in isolation, but form part of a larger landscape that informs their significance. So, context and challenges in South Africa. South Africa's rich and diverse heritage landscape is under increasing pressure from rapid urbanization and infrastructure development. South Africa is still a developing country with various industrial needs and growth requirements. SHA is critical to preserving this cultural wealth while accommodating economic growth. By integrating SHA into planning, authorities can balance the development needs of the country with preservation, ensuring that heritage assets contribute to national identity and economic vitality. This approach supports sustainable development and helps avoid the pitfalls of reactive heritage management. The current planning environment in South Africa faces several challenges. These include the reactive assessments conducted often late in the development process, fragmented data sources, and poor integration of heritage considerations. The Department of Sports, Arts and Culture is not seen as playing a vital role in spatial planning. So as heritage authorities under this department, we are often not included in those planning forums that contribute to high-level decision-making. Currently, as SARA, we do sit on the Marine Spatial Planning Forum, and we have recently been invited to an environmental planning workstream. Sometimes we are also sent environmental management frameworks that are drafted by various district municipalities, but we are not included in the early stage of drafting such frameworks. As a result, opportunities to leverage heritage for community development and tourism are often missed, and risks such as project delays and legal disputes are heightened. Addressing these challenges requires a shift towards strategic early stage heritage assessment. So what are the risks and opportunities of SHA? Identifying heritage resources late in the planning process can lead to significant risks, such as project delays, costly redesigns, and endless legal compliance issues. These risks are compounded by potential community opposition and reputational damage to developers and authorities. The social license to operate is a concept that seeks to create mutual beneficiation between the community and the developer. However, if this delicate connection is jeopardized through the disrespect of a community's heritage, it can make that working relationship tenuous. So SHA mitigates these risks by ensuring that heritage considerations are addressed early on, allowing for informed decision-making and graves are currently one of the biggest risks to developments. Graves may only be relocated if a claimant agrees to relocation. And often due to the poverty and unemployment situation in South Africa, Communities, and rightly so, see an opportunity to benefit from this. However, this can lead to a project to no longer be financially viable, and the graves are then noted as fatal flaws to the project. Then the development does not go ahead, and the economic growth and job opportunities for that area are lost. Identifying heritage such as graves early on can assist with project feasibility studies to identify these early risks, while alternative development solutions for those areas can be planned. It's not that no development should occur, but perhaps a more appropriate form of development should be taking place in those areas. Beyond risk mitigation, SHA offers numerous opportunities. It enhances cultural and economic value of development projects, promotes inclusive and community-driven planning, and strengthens local identity. By recognizing heritage as a resource rather than a constraint, SHA can contribute to cultural tourism, education, and social cohesion. This proactive approach aligns with broader goals of sustainability of sustainable and equitable development, such as the UN SDG goal 11.4, that seeks to strengthen and safeguard the world's natural and cultural heritage. Additionally, this has the potential to create a multitude of jobs, as well as skills development initiatives, from the on-ground surveying and consultation to data analysis, report drafting, integration of results into other planning schemes, as well as the implementation of recommendations identified. This can include the creation of heritage tourism industries and ongoing research of heritage resources. Identification of heritage resources is only the first step, but promotion and management of heritage resources is an ongoing endeavor. So we do have a few case studies. While no single coordinated effort has occurred to drive these type of projects, various projects have implemented this concept. SARS is the platform into which all of these data sets should be lodged. Various strategic environmental assessments for large strategic projects as part of our NDP have included a heritage component, such as the Phase 1 Square Kilometre Array project, the Renewable Energy Development Zones, and more recently, the Bochubai SEA. However, these use high-level data, such as existing data sources with limited ground truthing exercises. The Eastern Seaboard project, conducted as part of the Eastern Seaboard Smart City Development, that includes 4 district municipalities within the Eastern Cape and KZN provinces, can be seen as a SHA pilot project. The heritage data collected thus far has contributed to a much better understanding of the spatial distribution of heritage resources in those municipalities. Currently, only the desktop assessment results have been mapped, with the results of the field survey to soon follow. As shown in the image on the next slide, the spatial data has increased dramatically. Whereas before on SARS, we had a record of only 1,838 sites, now this data set has grown to 18,618. That is an increase of 913%. So here is the image of the terrestrial data. The offshore data has yet to be mapped, but this is the increase in data that we have just from the desktop assessment for those areas. That will inform the planning of the smart city development. So strategic heritage assessments can effectively be integrated into spatial planning instruments such as spatial development frameworks, integrated development plans, as well as precinct plans. The integration involves the use of GIS and spatial data to identify and map these resources, aligning SHA with environmental and infrastructure planning ensures that heritage considerations are embedded at all stages of development, fostering a more holistic and coordinated approach. Various sections of the National Heritage Resources Act underpin this type of initiative. Section 9 speaks to heritage resources under control of branches of state and state-supported bodies. By having an accurate inventory and assessment of all heritage resources within our reserves, our NEMPA protected areas, state-owned land, properties under the control of public works, for example, we can understand the potential for sustainable heritage tourism and livelihood strategies. Section 30 states that each PRA must compile and maintain an inventory of all heritage resources within their provinces. Provincial authorities should seek to focus on gathering data from areas earmarked for strategic development within their provinces to ensure that there is enough data to provide for well-informed planning decisions. Section 31 states that planning authorities, such as district and local municipalities, but also those at a national level, undertake an exercise to declare heritage areas that would require additional considerations, such as the restriction of certain development activities in order to protect the area of cultural interest. This is mostly used in cities such as the city of Cape Town, where certain neighborhoods and townscapes are declared as heritage areas, and development is restricted to maintain the sense of place. Understanding the need for these restrictions and those careful considerations at an early stage can assist with spatial planning, and these aspects can be integrated to enhance the sense of place, rather than to fight against it. The workflow for SHA includes 5 key steps. First, scoping and stakeholder engagement to define objectives and to gather our input. Obviously, data collection and mapping of heritage resources using spatial tools. This can be an ongoing project for many, many years to come. Analysis and interpretation to assess significance and potential impacts. Integration into planning instruments to inform decision-making, and monitoring and adaptive management to ensure ongoing relevance and responsiveness. This structured approach facilitates more effective implementation and continuous improvement. So who are our stakeholders and resources? Successful implementation of SHA requires collaboration amongst various stakeholders. Heritage authorities and branches of government are responsible for identifying and evaluating cultural assets. That includes the results of private survey projects into data sets, while municipal and provincial planners integrate these findings into development frameworks. Environmental and infrastructure departments must ensure alignment with broader planning goals. And as per the spirit of our National Heritage Resources Act, there is a need to allow for inclusive management and decision-making, where community members and private institutions provide valuable knowledge and support. These clear roles and responsibilities foster accountability and effective coordination. There is a need for this greater cooperation to holistically plan for the future of South Africa. Now, there is a range of tools and resources to support this, obviously including our various GIS platforms for spatial analysis, our heritage databases for information management, such as SARIS, and policy frameworks to guide implementation. Capacity building and training programs are essential to equip stakeholders with the skills needed to conduct SHA effectively. Investing in these resources enhances the quality and impact of these assessments, contributing to the more informed and inclusive planning outcomes. Existing programs and curriculums at tertiary education institutions must be enhanced with this concept so that heritage is incorporated at the earliest stage of training the next generation of planners. If no such programs exist, various stakeholders must work together to address these skills gaps. Currently, SARA is conducting, or at least in the very early stages of conducting an audit on university programs, and this is the gap that we have already noticed. So in conclusion, to advance strategic heritage assessment in South Africa, it is recommended to institutionalize strategic heritage assessments within planning processes, develop pilot projects to demonstrate its value, and advocate for policy reform and resource allocation. While the Eastern Seaboard project has been implemented, this is only for one strategic project. A larger plan needs to be put in place to target more strategic zones in a holistic approach. Building partnerships across sectors and investing in data infrastructure will further support implementation. These steps will embed heritage considerations into the fabric of spatial planning, fostering resilience and inclusivity. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Natasha, for that very informative presentation. I would like to now read the room and see if there are any comments in the chat box. Okay, there is a comment from Ben there, Natasha, which says, wonderful presentation. All right, so in the absence of no questions, I would like to introduce the next two speakers, who are our fellow SARA colleagues, Mr. Ethan Cotti and Ms. Gertie Theron from the National Inventory Units. Our speakers will be presenting under the title Digitizing Museums and the Practicality of Creating a Digital Record of a Collection. So just a reminder to please feel free to engage with the presentation in the chat box, and over to the both of you colleagues. Are you guys ready to present?
Hi, good morning. We are ready. We're here.
All right, over to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Just give me a second while I share my screen. That should be visible to everybody.
Yes, you are visible and we can hear you clearly.
Thank you so much. I'll get started then. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us today. I'd like to introduce myself and my colleague, and we'll be co-presenting. My name is Ethan Cotti. I'm the Inventories and Research Coordinator for the National Inventory Unit, the NIU as we're known. With me is my esteemed colleague, Ms. Gertie Theron, who is the unit's Inventories Controller. I'll cover the beginning part of the presentation, and Gertie will cover the core discussion, and then I'll end with a thank you. Gertie and I have a background in museums. We both worked at the Zika Museums of South Africa, and as such have a passion for ensuring that collections are accessible as well as safeguarded. Using the G20 Summit themes of solidarity, equality, and sustainability as our guides, we have created this presentation titled Harnessing SARS to Safeguard Heritage in a Changing Climate, Digitizing Museums, the Practicality of Creating a Digital Record of a Collection. We'll be discussing digitizing museums in the wake of a changing climate to ensure that our heritage resources are sustainable as well as accessible. So without any further ado, let's begin. Our contents page outlines the points we'll be discussing, starting with an introduction to SARS. We'll then explain the roles and functions of SARS relating to online collection management. We'll then discuss a practical guide to digitizing your collection and digitizing your museum and its collection, followed by digitization examples, and then I'll be ending off with a thank you. Introduction to SARS. SARS stands for South African Heritage Resources Information System. It was created through the legislative requirements set out by the Section 39 of the National Heritage Resources Act, Act number 25 of 1999. Quote, SARA must compile and maintain an inventory of the national estate, which must be in the form of a database of information on heritage resources, which is considered to be of worthy conservation, end quote. This includes all places and objects that SARA or the National Monuments Council has been involved with, is protected by publication in the Government Gazette, is generally protected by the NARA, places of interests, and the inventory must be publicly accessible. SARS is managed by the National Inventory Unit. We oversee systems functions, provide user training, and update the system to provide more workability and functionality. Digitizing collections. By utilizing SARS and uploading a museum collection, you're creating an accurate and up-to-date digitized version of your collection that is compatible with all other institutions on the system, as well as international standards and the requirements laid out by the NARA. Standardized formatting, ensuring editable collection information without compromising collection data. And cloud hosting provides real-time, fast, global access to your collection while ensuring its security by creating individual, dedicated individual access. Roles and functions of SARS. So let's go through some of the roles and functions of SARS listed on the screen. SARS is free, fully functioning collections management system, documenting and organizing your collections information. All heritage resources digitized on SARS are standardized and can be shared and compared to other collections on the system. The new cloud hosting functionality ensures safe online storage of your collection information. Your collection information is globally accessible on your tablet, phone, or laptop. Our Fresh Desk ticketing system ensures that you receive the assistance and training you need to ensure a smooth user experience. It can be found on the front page of SARS. Practical guide to digitization. Digitizing is a crucial process to ensure your collections are accessible in real time and user-friendly, while ensuring its longevity. With the digitized collection, information can be shared more easily, connections can be made, and the heritage we all love can be experienced and engaged with by so many more people without it ever leaving the collection space. What is the minimum requirements to be able to digitize the collection? The pieces of equipment you will need include a PC, access to the internet, a camera, and a scanner. Utilizing these tools and these simple steps, we'll go through how to digitize your museum collection and upload it to SARS. Register on SARS. This is the quickest and simplest step in the process. By creating a free SARS account, you gain access to all the functions and roles that the system has to offer, including the ability to create objects, sites, and groups on the system. Using the collection management tool, you can upload your museum collection. This is important as all digitized collections need a long-term storage solution that isn't a personal computer or hard drive. Full extent of your museum collection. The total number of objects, their names, reference numbers, descriptions, provenance, and location in your storeroom. Most museums have a register book that has all the collection material that the museum considers part of the collection. But does it reference all the museum material that is in the storeroom? Catalog cards are another popular means of recording museum collection information. Some of the material information might be spread out into a register book, Microsoft Excel sheets, and loan object records. What you need to ensure is that all the collection material has a recorded entry on the inventory register to make a complete list of everything that is in the museum custodian's care for the foreseeable future. Once you have a consolidated collection register, it's time to update the inventory register. All the objects in the collection need to be reviewed to ensure that the information provided is up to date and accurate. A digital copy of the updated inventory register needs to be created. This is best done in Excel to efficiently upload it to SARS. Photographic records of all the objects need to be taken. If a clear physical photographic copy of the object exists, those can be scanned and appended to the object on SARS. Digital photography has the benefit of being able to review the photographs taken instantly. The key features to capture of an object include the whole object, The physical features, including handles, bases, rims, maker's marks or unique identifiers, patterns, and if they are part of a set or linked object, like a T-set. Digitization of paper records. It's important to remember that many objects might have accompanying paperwork. These need to be digitized and appended to the object on SARS as well. You need to ensure the survival of the object's paper trail as well as the object itself. Documents about its purchase, provenance, diary entries, letters, articles on the object, catalog cards, and the collection management documentation. The future of paper records will be digital. As we email and create PDFs of the material in our collection, which needs to be centralized. These documents need to be centralized with the object on SARS. Once you have digitized your object information, you're ready to create the object on SARS and upload the information. For assistance with creating and uploading information to SARS, please contact us by making use of our help desk function on the front page of SARS. This may sound like a daunting task, but the steps do not have to occur all at once. Consider the various sections of your collection in various states. Parts that are already digitized or captured on an Excel spreadsheet might be more accessible and provide a good starting point. Museums' collections are dynamic and growing, and this can be aided by creating a standardized process for all the new collection objects and working back through the collection. Consider collection management digitization projects where you divide the collection into manageable sections and ensure realistic goals that suit your museum. It's time to hand over to Gertie to share with you some examples.
Thank you very much, Ethan. I believe my screen should be visible to everybody.
You are visible, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you again, Ethan. Through the following examples, I am going to show some of the collection management features that SARS has to assist you in creating a digital record of your collection and the management of the collection itself. We will be looking at the following features, which are object records, site links, object reports, condition assessments, and object movement tracking. But first, we have to digitize your collection. Now, to easily assist you in the process of digitizing a collection, we at the NIU provides the service of bulk uploading the object information onto SARS for you. This is done by completing the Excel sheet that we provide to the museum with all the relevant and required object information, and then sending it back to us. As you can see, the Excel sheet is very easy to understand and covers most of the general information records that goes with objects, such as the accession number, descriptive information, historical information, and many more. Once the record has been uploaded onto SARS, all the relevant information is viewable as an object record. These records are all presented on one web page with tabs for the different information types. The tabs are as follows: general information, which includes object ID and the name, descriptive information, such as your measurements and markings, historical information, such as the owner and object age, site association, where the object can be linked to a site, and then the media tab is where one can upload photos and documents, while the assessment tab covers the condition reports. And then lastly, we have if the object, the movement of the objects, and the declaration tab. In this tab, if an object has been declared, all the records will be added to this section. All of this information, as I stated before, is viewable on this one web page, and it was designed for easy access and to make sure that all of this information is always linked to the object itself so that nothing can go wrong or get lost. As mentioned in the previous slide, another feature that SARS provides is the option of linking the objects to sites that they are connected with. This could be archaeological sites where the object was actually found, or structural sites such as a church or a house that the object has a very strong connection with. The Nelson Mandela houses are a very good example of this, as a lot of the objects have a strong connection to those houses itself and to him who used them. The sites once created on SARS and linked to the object can be viewed by clicking on the site link as shown here. Once you click on it, the link will then take you to a different web page on SARS that has all the information of the given site. This information includes things such as the general information of the site and the history of it, as well as the site location and a GPS point on a map, as you can see on this slide. Next, we will be looking at the system features of object actions, which can be selected through a side menu, which appears when you select the red button, as you can see on this slide. Through this menu, the museum personnel can create specific collection management actions, which are things such as object movements, condition assessments, valuations, and PDF reports. All of these actions are shown on the object record page and are permanently linked to the object, as they are assigned for easy access. Now, some of these actions, due to them being of sensitive nature, such as the valuation, is only viewable for the personnel that are connected to the object, and the general public will not be able to see this information. We will now be looking at some of these actions more in detail, and we will start with the PDF report. In this slide, we have an example of a PDF report that was generated for this specific object. This report was designed to be in a comprehensive and compact format that covers the basic object information. The information covered will be things such as the object code, the object count, cultural association, maker, production place, a description of it, as well as the provenance of the object. Next, we have the condition assessment. Now, the condition assessment is an easy to complete web form that covers the basic information that is required for an object condition report. As you can see on this slide, it covers things such as the assessment date, the inspector who did the assessment, the object's condition, what actions has to be done, and then any specific notes. But we understand that each museum has its own format for their condition reports and assessments. And as such, the condition assessment page also has a section where you would be able to upload your own documents and photos that would be linked to this specific condition assessment for easy access at a later date. Lastly, we will be looking at the object locations and the object movement. Through this, you will be able to create storage locations on SARS, keep a record of where the object is located at a given time, and track the movement of the object as the movements get logged on the system. Firstly, you'll have to create the locations on SARS. This slide shows how an example of a museum storage record can look. This record has the locations of not just the storage shelves and the rooms, but you can also create the display rooms or exhibition areas. Now, once the locations have been created on SARS and the objects then linked to the locations, one would be easily able to move the object virtually around through the records to keep track of everything. As you can see on this slide, SARS will keep track of all object movements as they are logged on the system. On this record, you can see the history of the movement of this specific object, with the newest transfer always logged showing at the top. Through this, we can see that this object came into the storage, was moved to a different storage location, and was later moved to a display room for exhibition. By having the location information recorded and attached to the object, it might minimize the chance of the object getting misplaced or lost. We have now gone through the whole process of SARS and digitizing a collection on SARS, as well as how we at the NIU and through SARS can assist you with your collection management features. And we hope that by doing this, we will be able to assist you in not just digitizing your collection, but making your collection secured for the future and available for everybody that would like to be able to have access to your collection. For this online format, SARS's main aim is the protection of our history. And it can only be done by using these formats and online versions so that there's always a digital record available of your collection. Because as the times change, unfortunately, the protection of our physical assets are getting harder and harder to complete with all of the natural and man-made issues that can appear. I'm now going to end my session, and I thank you very much for listening. So I'll be giving this now back over to Ethan. Ethan, you can go ahead.
Thank you so much, Gertie. That brings us to the end of our presentation. I'd like to thank the attendees for giving us their time and to thank Gertie for showing us the power of a digitized collection harnessed by SARS. We hope that this demonstration has made you aware of the ease of digitization and the outcomes that can be achieved, whether you're a well-established museum or have just opened to the public. Through SARS, digitization allows for a more accurate reflection of your collection and allows the user to update the collection information efficiently. Collection information can be easily accessible anywhere in the world and ensures that the collection information will continue to be accessible, helping to create a sustainable heritage for the future generations. Once again, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ethan and Gertie, for that insightful presentation. It was quite the interesting one. I see that there are comments and questions in the chat box. So there is a comment from Ben Masinga. Thank you for the brilliant presentation, Ethan and Gertie. Very simple and practical steps that can assist with collections and records management on a central database. And then there is a comment as well as question from Nancy, which reads, thank you to my team members for such an insightful presentation. I really appreciated how you not only explained SARS in the context of museums, but also showed a practical example of how it can be used in day-to-day museum work. It really highlighted the value of SARS as a tool for supporting collections management and compliance in a practical way. Okay, so the question is there any cost to museums? Ethan?
So I can answer that question.
Okay.
So SARS is completely free. There's no fees for using SARS. Registration does not cost you anything. You can use most of the basic features on SARS without even registering. There's no fee for the NIU to train you to use SARS either. This is true for individuals as well as institutions. And with regards to Ben's comment, we will leave our contact details in the chat for those that want to get in contact with us.
All right, I see there is a hand from Derek Hodler. Derek, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's Derek Holder. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, just grateful that you are doing this, focusing on digitizing. It's a buzzword, digitization. Everyone likes it, and everyone has a different view of it. You guys, we've got at least 16,000 photographs that we need to digitize, and I'm thinking that's going to overwhelm your system. I'm worried about that kind of thing. But I was just wondering, do you guys have like a guideline document that you've developed at all, or is there anything like that? This is probably something we could do one-on-one, with when you put your contact details, and then I could actually get hold of you. But yeah, just want to thank you guys. Yeah, your platform's it's so simple, but it ticks all the right boxes, and it's easy to use, the interface, from what I've seen. Yeah, just well done. Thank you.
If I may respond.
Yes, go for it.
Thank you so much, Jared, for your comment. Yes, we do have a few guideline documents, but once again, it is best to just get in contact with us, and then we can have a one-on-one discussion, because every museum, every institution is unique, and they have certain requirements. So having a one-on-one discussion, we can navigate through those. I'll leave my details as well as my manager's details in the chat, and some links that you guys can have a look at. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ethan. I see there's a comment from Joshua Slingers. Thank you, Ethan and Gertie, for the insightful presentation highlighting the practicality of digitizing a collection. And I see there is another comment as well as question from Dr. Tom Jeffrey, which reads, thank you for an interesting presentation. Is SARS suited to working with document collections, or is it more focused on three-dimensional objects? Can you please take that question, Ethan?
Yes, yes, I can. So yes, we can take document collections as well. Most museums have 3D collections, but paper-based collections are perfectly welcome. There's a space for them on SARS. I see Gertie had her hand up as well. I'm not sure if she wants to contribute.
Thank you, Ethan. I just wanted to say that with regards to 3D objects or with document collection, the system is geared more towards 3D objects. But as Ethan stated, we can handle digital document collections, but SARS is not a registrar yet. So we do have the function of some of the material, but it's not specific towards document collection as the given moment, but it can handle certain areas of digitizing document collections.
Right. Thank you, colleagues, for answering and taking all of our questions. Can we all please give a digital round of applause for our SARA colleagues? All right, so up next, similar to our previous speakers, also fellow SARA colleagues, so Ms. Bongiwe Havi and Mr. Joshua Slingers, who are also from the National Inventory Unit. Our speakers will be presenting under the title Heritage Protection and Climate Change, Community Museums and the Power of Local Voices. Over to the both of you, colleagues.
Good morning to all our online attendees. My name is Joshua Slingers. I am an intern data capturer in the National Inventory Unit. I'm also joined by my colleague Bongiwe Havi. Bongiwe is the GIS technician in the National Inventory Unit. Welcome to our presentation titled Heritage Protection in Climate Change, Community Museums and the Power of Local Voices. Climate change is an ongoing issue that all sectors of society face. The heritage sector is no different. Due to climate change, heritage resources face imminent threat. This presentation will highlight how the use of digital platforms is one way to mitigate the impact of climate change to ensure the protection of heritage resources. This presentation will show how heritage protection through the use of the digital platform SARS is possible during the uncertainty of climate change. The presentation will then provide an example of a digital route hosted on SARS displaying South Africa's museums. This is an example of heritage promotion. But before we get into that, let us go through the content of the presentation. The introduction will provide a more detailed breakdown of the purpose of the presentation. We will then move on to discuss digital platforms and digital platforms as an approach to a climate-resilient heritage future. We then focus on SARS as a digital platform that provides a centralized database for heritage resources and how it can be used for both heritage protection and heritage promotion. An example of a digital route will then be shown, specifically a digital route that showcases museums across South Africa, including community-based museums. The presentation will then end with the conclusion and a word of thanks. So, going into the introduction, this presentation will highlight how embracing digital systems and platforms enhances our ability to respond to environmental threats and ensure a future for our cultural heritage. In the face of the climate crisis, heritage management and protection must evolve. Embracing the various technologies available to us is key. Digital platforms enable better decision-making by heritage authorities by providing accessible data, mapping tools, and impact tracking. Linked to this is heritage promotion and tourism. Digital platforms allow for smaller heritage institutions like community-based museums or lesser-known heritage sites to reach a wider audience. Heritage protection and heritage promotion go hand in hand. I will now hand over to my colleague, Bongiwe.
Thank you, Josh, and good morning to everyone. I will start off with what digital platforms are and how are they shaping the future. Digital platforms are online environments that enable the creation, sharing, and exchange of information. So examples may include your popular social networks. This could be Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. E-commerce marketplaces, which may include Amazon or Takealot, and heritage management systems. And the best example for this one would be the South African Heritage Resources Information System, which is SARIS. It is worth noting that in relation to the theme of G20, so while I was reading through the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, I could say that digital platforms support climate change adaptation and mitigation efforts. They promote sustainable cities and communities by providing innovative solutions to ensure long-term preservation of heritage assets. With this in mind, digital platforms are key to unlocking heritage tourism as they provide innovative ways to experience and engage with heritage resources. There is then improved visibility and reach, and they are accessible as they provide the convenience of access via a phone, a tablet, or a PC, ensuring that everyone has access. I would like to also emphasize that digital platforms are transforming the way we map and protect our heritage resources, empowering communities to have a voice in the process. By documenting and identifying heritage sites that are most at risk, we can better protect them for future generations. These platforms also foster collaboration by connecting museums with each other and with the public, strengthening networks and encouraging shared knowledge. Through the integration of maps into exhibitions, we can educate audiences and increase local awareness about the importance of heritage preservation. Finally, by promoting heritage sites, routes, and institutions, digital mapping supports sustainable tourism and helps ensure that these valuable resources are celebrated and maintained responsibly. Now, building on the foundation from the previous presentation given by Katie and Ethan, we'll be looking at SARIS as a digital platform. SARIS as a heritage management tool has been providing innovative solutions for documentation, conservation, and preservation of heritage assets. I could say that SARIS is interactive, scalable, accessible, and flexible. And what do I mean by all this? It is interactive in a way that it enables users to interact with each other or the platform itself. It can scale to meet the needs of a large number of users. It can be accessed anywhere with an internet connection, and it can be customized and adapted to meet specific needs. So SARIS as a digital platform provides a centralized database of all heritage resources in South Africa. So these heritage resources may include heritage sites, heritage cases, and heritage objects. At SARA, SARIS is administered and managed by the National Inventory Unit that Josh and I are part of, along with the previous speakers. The inventory are ongoing records for identifying as well as describing heritage places for a range of purposes, including heritage management and protection. Now let's explore SARIS heritage sites inventory to illustrate the power of using digital platforms. As you can see on my screen, we have a map from 2012 and a map from 2025. In 2012, we had 14,601 sites documented across South Africa through our digital platform, SARIS. According to the second map created in 2025, this inventory has increased significantly. When assessing the consequences of climate change, it is critical to consider the potential impact of a disaster on these recorded sites. If a terrible disaster had happened in 2012, we would have no record of these sites or their locations. Accurate recording allows us to better protect our cultural and natural assets, as well as improve our disaster response and recovery. Thus, I can say SARIS is a proactive approach to identify and document potential sites for future exploration and protection. Let us now move to the status quo of the inventory. This is the status of the heritage sites on SARIS. There are approximately 55,280 recorded sites. I would like to emphasize that SARIS functions through user-generated information. Users are the main source of our heritage information. So I would like to say also thank you to the SARIS user. So there are plus or minus 184 national heritage sites and plus minus 2,857 provincial heritage sites across South Africa. The top map shows the concentration of all recorded sites in South Africa by each province, while the bottom map displays declared sites at both national and provincial levels. Now, I will not be going through all the figures in the table, but you can see that the sites are recorded for each province, detailing general sites, provincial sites, and national heritage sites for each. When managing a user-generated heritage resources website, it is important to acknowledge that there might be potential shortcomings, such as site duplicates, content quality and accuracy, as well as data security and privacy. But then I can assure you that the National Inventory Unit is committed to continuously moderate and maintain a wide range of datasets by leveraging our expertise and knowledge. Next, Josh will take us through a project example showcasing the potential of digital platforms. Over to you, Josh.
Thank you, Bongiwe. It is important to recognize that digital platforms should not only serve as repositories for heritage resources. We are also able to develop projects that promote the exploration and preservation of these recorded sites and objects, such as a digital route map for South Africa's museums. So let us look at an example of this museum digital route that is currently being developed by the NIU. This is a draft version we are building in partnership with the South African Museums Association. And it is called South Africa's Museums. This digital route is hosted on the SARS platform. Slide. This digital route is hosted on the SARS platform. And as you can see, the digital route is displayed on a map of South Africa, showcasing various museums across the 9 provinces. There are currently 234 museums on this map, with more museums being added. Discover South Africa's rich cultural heritage through its diverse array of museums, from world-renowned institutions in major cities to hidden gems in rural towns. This map offers a curated guide to the country's most fascinating historical, artistic, and scientific collections. On this map, you are able to filter via province, district, municipality, and local municipality. The map also contains a search function for you to search by the museum name. And now I will attempt to do a live demonstration. See if this works. There we go. This is the draft version of South Africa's museums, a digital route that is being hosted on the SARS platform. And as I said, there are 234 museums currently on display, but this number is increasing. As mentioned, you are able to filter via museum name, province, district, municipality, and local municipality. There are museums across the 9 provinces. I will search an example. I'm typing in Luandle, and up appears the Luandle Migrant Labor Museum. And if I click on the symbol, a pop-up will appear, and it says the Luandle Migrant Labor Museum is a memorial to the system of migrant labor, single-sex hostels, and the control of Black workers through the identity document which controlled the lives of Black South Africans under apartheid, the infamous passbook. As you can see, there is some basic information on the museum, the address, and you are also directed to the museum's website. If I click on the name of the museum, I'll be directed to another page which shows the museum's information in quite a nice and compact way. You're also given the date of establishment and various other pieces of location information. Just sharing my slideshow again. The minimum information necessary to be displayed on this map would include the coordinates of the institution, the address, the contact details, and a basic institution description. Once again, this is only the minimum information required. Detailed information is vitally important in a national inventory. We in the NIU believe that the more detailed and structured the information, the better. The SARS platform allows for a variety of information to be displayed. including website links, image media, and other forms of media. SARS, as mentioned earlier, is a flexible and scalable digital platform. We now have the ability and opportunity to use it to promote heritage in an accessible way. Sustainable development is vital. We must recognize that we cannot protect or preserve what we are not aware of. These digital routes can inspire more communities to protect their heritage resources. This provides a platform for communities to showcase their heritage in a variety of creative and innovative ways. These tools are free and easily accessible. This platform can be used by financially and resource-constrained communities, museums, and institutions to share their heritage and raise awareness around their heritage. I would like to bring this presentation to a close with a quote from Marcus Garvey, highlighting the social impact of heritage. A people without the knowledge of their past, history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Thank you to all our online attendees for your time. This presentation has shown how, through the use of digital platforms, we can ensure the protection of our precious heritage resources in a changing climate. A digital platform like SARS allows for not only heritage protection and management, it also enables and encourages heritage promotion of a museum digital route that is currently being developed. Please contact us at the NIU for any further information or queries regarding SARS. Thank you.
Right, thank you, colleagues, for that comprehensive presentation. I love the collaborative efforts as well. I see there's a comment in the chat box. There's actually quite a few of them. There's one from Celine Miller, which says it is also a PHS and SOS needs to be integrated with the QR code. Thank you for that comment. I see there's one from Nancy as well. Thank you, Bongiwe and Josh. A very interesting and practical presentation. I really like the idea of adding digital heritage routes to a platform like SARS. It will make it so much easier for the public to explore and connect with sites. And it could be a powerful tool for education, tourism, and community storytelling. There's another comment from John Parkway as well. Thank you for this informative presentation, colleagues. In terms of users being able to interact within SARS, is there a planned additions to the system which will enable users to see if their message have been received and or seen by other users? Often applicants are unable to reach their case officers, and then because of the need to know application progress, they often contact other case officers, officials from other units or heritage authorities. Being able to see if the other user case officer has seen a message from an applicant will not only ease the applicant, but will also compel case officers to respond to messages timelessly. So can you please take that question, Ethan Bongiwe?
Thank you for that question. We in the NIU are constantly developing SARS. We are always in contact with our developer, and that is certainly something that we will take on board. Any suggestions and recommendations as to how SARS can be more user-friendly is welcome. So thank you for that question and comment.
We have a question or comment from Ben Mwasinga. Over to you, Ben.
Thank you so much, Program Director. Thank you, Bongiwe. Thank you, Josh. This is really an interesting and very unique perspective at looking at how digital platforms can assist with combating against the climate crisis. I've got two questions for both of you. I'll start with my question to Josh. As I've stated, we often overlook at how digital platforms can be used as a tool for resilience. So how can museums or cultural institutions assist in the fight against the climate crisis, utilizing SARS or any other digital platform?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that amazing question, Ben. So we at the NIU do have a web form actually that we are sending to museums. And on that web form, museums are able to contact us and provide us with more information about the institution. And in that way, museums are able to use SARS, the digital platform, to mitigate against climate change or even man-made risk.
Yeah.
So that is one of the ways we are encouraging museums to get into contact with us.
Thank you so much. My second question for Josh. If resources were not an issue, how far would you take SARS as a platform, again, that can assist with mitigating against man-made disaster or the climate crisis?
How much time do we have? Scale up SARS to be more user-friendly on cell phones. I, for one, have heard lots of talk from maritime archaeologists about the risks maritime archaeology faces. And there's a tool that is currently on SARS, but it hasn't been developed to its full extent, called an observations function. And for me, I think that would be the best way to mitigate against climate change or man-made risks. That would be logging on using the SARS app and logging a heritage site that you feel is being threatened, and that being sent directly to a heritage officer. So that is another example of how I would want SARS to develop. And also, we have lots of dreams in the NIU. I know my manager, Jake Harding, he has a vision of SARS being used as a space for exhibitions. So museums who are financially constrained and might not be able to create a fancy website, they would be able to use SARS to digitize their collections and have a digital representation of the objects and being able to host exhibitions, museum exhibitions through SARS. If resources weren't an issue, that is some of the ways I envision SARS could grow and help museums and other heritage institutions.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your responses. Now my two questions to Ms. Harvey. So the first one, as you know, we are dealing with a global crisis. However, we are uniquely affected on the African continent due to resource constraints and other issues. How would you expand the use of SARS or any other digital platforms to our fellow African neighbors?
So in this case, I would say, since SARS at the moment, to be able to access it, you need an internet connection. So I would say maybe we need like an offline user base of some sort that people can actually use, and that can be accessed by anyone, because we know that not everyone can actually afford data or Wi-Fi. So in this way, we can also, it would be also a way to sort of encourage even people who are coming from less developed places to be able to actually see and explore all the data that we have themselves.
Thank you. That's a wonderful suggestion and response. And then, what you presented here to me is new knowledge. Are there any plans to take this further in terms of research and publications around the work that is being done?
So we are, as Josh had mentioned, we are constantly looking for ways to actually improve and get service out there so that people can have access to it. And yeah, everything is welcome.
Thank you so much, Ben, for those questions. There is a comment from Ethan as well, which says, thank you, Bongiwe and Josh, for the fantastic presentation. Thank you for showcasing the status of our heritage sites and highlighting the tremendous growth that has taken place over such a short period of time. The South Africa's map is incredible. It's amazing to see how many museums we have in our country. Can you please share the link so that our online audience can have a closer look and contribute, which Mr. Slingers has already done. And then another comment from Nancy, which is a response to the one from John Pagwe, which reads a very valid comment. As an officer at SARS, I've noticed that users of the system do find it hard to identify who their case officer is. We will look into making it more user-friendly. All right, so Once again, thank you so much for the engagement in the chat box. We highly appreciate it. Do keep the comments and questions coming. Last but certainly not least, our next speaker is Dr. Thomas Jeffrey. My apologies, Dr. Thomas, I did not receive your bio, but Dr. Jeffrey will be giving us a presentation under the title Ecological Decolonial Museology for Relevance and Sustainability. You can take us away, Doctor, whenever you are ready.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I'll just share my screen. Can you see that now? Can you see my slides?
Yes.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. I want to start by saying thank you to Sarah for inviting me to speak today. I'm very grateful to you for including me in the program, and I hope I'll do it justice today. If I should thank other people, I hope you'll take that as read, as we say in South Africa when we're not sure who to thank, all protocol observed. The title of the seminar is Resilient Heritage, and I'm interested in exploring ways in which to reimagine the idea of the museum as an institution so that it can become more resilient to change. And this is work driven by my concern for what we see happening in the world today, a time of social ecological crisis in which we live, and my belief that museums can play a powerful role in mitigating that crisis. There are many museum people around the world looking for ways to reimagine the museum as a concept, and in doing so, to enable museums to reconfigure themselves in ways that increase their relevance and their social impact, and thus their resilience. This is a response to the changes that have taken place in the world, which seem to be ever more rapid and radical. The communities and societies that museums serve face great challenges, and museums have the potential to play a powerful role in developing solutions. So from the museum perspective, I think the idea of a legacy is usually regarded as a collection of physical objects, together with the knowledge associated with those objects. And our first response to the problem of a changing climate is to think about how to conserve those objects, how we're going to maintain conditions like temperature and humidity. So the focus is on the physical preservation of the things of the South African national estate and the things that are held in trust by our museums. I think equally important, however, is the resilience of a museum's connections to its communities. The perception of a museum matters for its resilience just as much as safeguarding the things in the museum's collections. The director of the UK Science Innovation Park, Matt Moore, has said, it's all about communication and bringing people to get together with a shared aim. And that's the point where I think changing our thinking comes into play. If we change the ideas we have about what museums are and what they can do, and what is important for museums to do, then we can begin to think of new ways to connect to our communities. If we're relevant, then we have agency in our communities, and then we are resilient, because if we are preserving our legacy together with the South African people, we're preserving a legacy that matches to them and in which they are invested. So it becomes a process of safeguarding our legacy, not only for the people. So the focus of my talk today is on the ways in which this kind of socially connected resilience depends on understanding the social and ecological issues are deeply entangled. The most significant implication of that for the heritage sector is that decolonizing our museums is entangled with the mitigation of the environmental crisis. I'm going to discuss these links and their implications for museums thinking and practice, and in particular, I want to explore the idea that the development of an ecological decolonial form of museology can help to ensure that museums are relevant to their communities and that they are therefore resilient to complex and rapid change. First, I want to share a bit about myself and where I work. I'm at Mosby South African Museum of Literature, and I'll share a few images of the museum. I want to do that because Mosby is actually a green museum, and that status is a direct response by the government to the impacts of climate change, to the need for resilience in the heritage sector. My discussion is going to focus on changes in our thinking, and this building, I feel, represents action grounded in the connections between society and ecology, and that's really what we need to think about if we're going to be a resilient sector. So this first slide here, Mosby was built as the Green Museum, and that means it was built in compliance with standards set out by the Green Building Council of South Africa. The building achieved a 5-star rating as a built structure, and it's the first museum and the only museum so far in the country that's achieved that so far. And these plots at the museum's entrance reflect their status, and they also show how the museum's evolved from the National English Literary Museum to a Mosby South African Museum of Literature. So Mosby means voices in the isiXhosa language, The museum is the custodian of South Africa's literary heritage, and it's evolved from one that historically only collected literature in English to one that now collects the literatures of all of South Africa's languages. So this new green building was constructed as the home for the museum with that expanded mandate. So that's a really positive and constructive step by the Department of Public Works, which is often regarded with suspicion and disappointment, but in this case, I feel they deserve some recognition. So we have a roof garden at the museum, so that the planted roof is over the collection of storage areas, and it helps to maintain the environmental conditions, which I mentioned earlier. So we do care about that. Obviously, it's a vital part of running a museum is maintaining the collection's environmental conditions. And that roof helps us do that. It works with the air conditioning to preserve the conditions in the collections areas. It also means the building is in harmony with its landscape. If you're looking from the back of the museum, over the museum, you can't really see that there's a massive structure there. You've got this green view instead. So that green building status confers responsibilities on Amasbi as a museum, perhaps not officially, but certainly in spirit and ethos. And the museum makes every effort to be green in its operations and to ensure that we're neither wasteful nor harmful to the people and the environment in and around the building. So that's who I am and where I work. I just want to emphasize that my perspective today is grounded in the South African context, and obviously our social problems and our environmental problems of South Africa are specific to our region, but we're also implicated and affected by the global social ecological crisis. That's the broader context of what the work we're doing. And I think we need to remember that. So I want to consider the question first, how can an ecological decolonial form of museology help to ensure the resilience of the heritage sector? And I want to note that museology, I think, covers philosophy, theory, and practice. And there's a chain there from belief to conception and action. So how can this form of museology help to ensure our resilience? The main proposition I want to make in this part of the talk is that to bring social justice and environmental justice together in our thinking and practice is a powerful way for museums to create relevance and to ensure that we're resilient in times of change, whether we're talking about climate change or changes in society, and those two things are very much connected. So I've got a simple sort of word equation that I think pretty much covers everything I want to say today. If I wanted to do one sentence for this whole presentation, this would be it. And that's social plus ecological justice in museums' activities equals relevance and resilience for the museum. So what I'm suggesting is there's a further layer of complexity to our decolonial work on equality, inclusivity, and telling of hidden histories, one that I think we often tend to overlook, and that is the connections between social justice and environmental justice. These connections are the foundation of an ecological decolonial approach to museology, which I think is can be a very useful approach to thinking about museums, philosophy, thinking, and practice. So one of museums' most important responsibilities is to make people's lives better in some way. I don't think there's much point preserving memory if we don't make use of it to help improve the present and the future, if we don't learn from our memory. Memory institutions like museums, galleries, and libraries have the potential to mobilize memory in ways that generate agency for resilience, which I think is actually a synonym for sustainability. Resilience and sustainability, I think, are, if not synonyms, very closely entangled with each other. So by connecting their collections to the potential for a better future and the improvement of life, museums generate relevance for themselves. And for museums to be relevant, whether that's environmentally, socially, or economically, they must be relevant to people's lives. So in that interest, I'm going to briefly mention some projects that we've done at Amasbi that have expanded our practice from a historical focus on social justice specifically to a focus on contemporary social ecological justice, projects that focused on people's lived experience. So Amasbi's conducted 2 projects in recent years that asked young people to take photos of social ecological phenomena that they see in their lives and to write an explanation of why they took those photos. The first project focused on youth in the Makana region where Amasbi is situated, and the second expanded the project to the national level. I'm going to share some of the photos and writing now. The first project is titled This Is What I'm Made Of, and this was done by learners who are very young, so I'm not naming them for reasons of privacy. This first learner took this photo of a dam in her near where she lives, and she simply said, "I love this dam." The next learner took a photo of her area where she lives and said, "Taking pictures of my location made me feel interested to know how other people and animals live in other places and how they survive. The next young person said, when I took this photograph, I felt like crying inside. The next one said, I was thinking about the good things that happened to me and appreciating nature. And this last slide from This Is What I'm Made Of said, this is simply, this street makes people sick. And you can see what you're speaking about there with that, the terrible pollution that people face in these areas, these marginalized areas at the edge of our cities, which is typically where you find the greatest problems. The next project was called Human Nature. You can see the title, Human Nature, brings together humanity and nature into one sort of conceptual framework linked by the red N, which indicates the urgency of the crisis we face. This first slide is called Finite by Umzwanele Sibanda, and he wrote that he was concerned with water security. He wanted to emphasize the importance of water and how we take it for granted, because one day there'll be no fresh water left. Many shall suffer due to drought. This next slide is called White Lion Relocation. It's by a young game ranger called Neil Howarth. I should just mention these people were slightly older. They get permission for that to be identified and to be discussed as known subjects of the work. So Neil Howarth is a young game ranger. He said he's interested in land use and wrote that in the past 25 years, most traditional farming land in the Makanda area, where the city is located, has been rewilded back to the natural environment instead of being used as farmland. So he's interested in how land use is changing and the idea of rewilding back to natural conditions versus being used as farmland. The evolution of game farms in this area has been huge for tourism purposes. It's beyond the discussion today, but it's a very interesting area of an inquiry. This next slide is called Metal and Water by Emma Parlebeen. She wrote that a mother nature figure stares at a faded and murky reflection of herself. And she was looking at how human interaction with nature is often negative, and the planet Earth health is fading and becoming more murky. So you can see in these projects that people talk about their lives in ways that cut across the social and the ecological, and involving and empowering people by giving them a voice and engaging in co-curation of content with a focus on lived experience naturally drew out a social ecological focus in the projects that cuts across the boundaries of disciplines. So Muzzy has taken a conscious decision recently to reorient its exhibition programs towards thematic exhibitions that emphasize co-creation. I think co-creation is a vital part of connecting with communities and of dealing with current issues that are relevant to people. So these techniques of co-creation and co-production are going to inform our two major forthcoming exhibitions, one that looks at the June 1976 uprising, because next year is the 50 years anniversary of June 76, the Soweto uprising. We want to link that uprising of 76 to contemporary youth protests. Trees must fall, roads must fall, and the youth protests we've seen around South Africa in response to the climate crisis. And then we're going to have an exhibition in the town of Kuluba, where our Olive Shana house is located. It used to be called Craddock. I'm sure you've heard of the Craddock Four, significant figures in the struggle. And that exhibition is going to focus on perspectives on and from women of Kuluba and South Africa more broadly. Another initiative Amazi has taken is the annual Literature Heritage Ecology Conference, which fosters cooperation between the sciences and the humanities. So we're bringing in together literature, heritage, and ecology, bringing in people from all the disciplines and crossing the boundary between the disciplines. This year, the theme was symbiosis, and it really generated multidisciplinary participation. That's what we need to find transformation towards pathways for resilience. So this focus on co-curation and on the lived experiences of the challenges people endure today draws together social and ecological justice and practice, and that's a key characteristic of ecological decolonial museology. So in this next part of the talk, I want to focus on the situated character of ecological decolonial museology. To develop more situated approaches to our thinking and practice is grounded in the interest in the expansion of the emerging narratives of harmony between people and between people and the earth. Well, we've seen museums around the world focusing on this relationship between people and the environment. And I think we can really sort of develop that more fully in South Africa in our museums. Earlier this year, I was fortunate to work with a French researcher called Stéphane Valette-Botero. I worked with him briefly on a project that relates to these ideas. And I want to just read a quotation from him, which I think is really sort of inspiring in this subject. Stéphane writes, "Museums and objects come together through relations of reciprocity and fragility. Let's take some water, sorry. Recognizing that cultural institutions rely on the well-being of surrounding ecosystems leads us to contemplate the place of non-humans in our conservation work. Permacircularity, a concept borrowed from sustainable economics, advocates limiting human activities to the carrying capacity of Earth systems. Cultural institutions such as museums should pioneer this art of coming down to Earth. And this shift must unfold not only in discourse, but in the more banal day-to-day realm of how things are produced, how people move, how procedures are scripted. I think that for museums, the art of coming down to Earth can be enabled by the fact that while traditional museology does privilege the tangible, the intangible values associated with sites and sacred spaces are always present, and they're inseparable from material culture. In our post-colonial moment, the intangible is emphasized because of the urgent need for the demarginalization of indigenous knowledge. And this historical position can never be erased, but an ecological decolonial mode of practice may enable the emergence of a complex, co-embedded constellational relationship through which marginalized and dominant epistemologies may combine in new and interesting ways, bringing together the voices that have been silenced with the voices that have been dominant, and combining them in new ways to find a new way forward, a new way of speaking about these vital issues. To soften the distinction between tangible and intangible, between indigenous and colonial scientific, between community memory and community need, offers a logic for practice that's grounded in humanity's immersion in ecological systems and a spiritual communion with nature as a source of life. Such an historical immersive logic offers a situated nuance that may help to reshape the museological distancing of people from the environment. Museums have typically worked with a focus on humans versus environment, or as two separate entities, and we could try and bring that together in this human nature construct. To work from a situated perspective can focus museology on the ways in which the mitigation of the colonial depredations of the past is entangled with the mitigation of the environmental crisis of the present. The legitimacy of an ecological decolonial mode of practice is dependent on both attention to historical depth and the relational perspective on current human nature relationships. These are the key elements of an ecological decolonial museology: historical awareness and a relational focus on social ecological justice. Those two things together really are the foundation of an ecological decolonial perspective. The practice of curation in this context can draw on this knowledge to curate networks of people, places, and things, and generate new forms of interactions. And most important of all, this is a form of curation of practice that recognizes people as complex social ecological entities. Their stories can be developed through the museum, which becomes a platform for collaborative projects with, for instance, authors, as the Masviza Museum of Literature, and communities. The key moment here is that physical archives can transcend museum storerooms to include land and landscape, natural systems and natural heritage, the world as a record, and the human record of living in the world. So we're speaking about active and practical engagements with people's living memories and perceptions of change. So it's this situated knowledge expressed as situated narratives, which inform co-developed exhibitions. Museums can bring multidisciplinary scholarship into contact with actual lived experiences, and together co-create situated narratives of social ecological crisis that challenge the untenable business as usual policy and practice of government and industry. Museums can foreground situated knowledge and evidence for social ecological crisis, and by enabling people's voices to be heard may help to motivate the cultural and political change that we need to see in our society. To embrace such transformations will enable the heritage sector to be resilient in the face of rapid, unpredictable, and deep changes to our climate and to our society. Towards the beginning of this talk, I mentioned that the social and ecological injustices felt in South Africa are symptoms of an international context. And I think there's an antidote to the abuses we see in the sort of capitalist context that's to be found in a respectful appreciation for the marvel that is the Earth, our planet, such as South African author Sandima Magona invokes when she says, in the slide you can read along, we should have respect for self, for all others, including all living things, animals, animate and non-animate, growing things, water, the air, the clouds. We should marvel that we are part of this, marvel at being part of this splendor. Sandima Magona has a lot to say on this subject, and such a sense of marvel can be generated when museums connect with communities and provide them with ways to express themselves. As Magona emphasizes, this goes back to Ubuntu, the essence of humanness. Respect for yourself, respect for the other, and for all life. That's what we need. She says that even dropping garbage on the sidewalk, on the pavement, you are killing. So Magona's expression of ethos of care for all living things, be they animals, plants, or people, or even inanimate things, the planet on which we live, the geology of it, emerges from a sense of the kinship between animals, between humans and other animals, that she expresses when she speaks of the two-footed animals known as humans. Such a broadly empathetic perspective with a sense of wonder for the world is inherently socially ecological. And it is this sense that museums can bring to the surface in the lives of communities and individuals. It's this sense of entanglement of people with their environment and the assistance and our responsibility for the environment that situated forms of museology, such as the ecological decolonial, can mobilize as the foundation for greater social ecological justice. And that can help museums to become more resilient. So thank you very much. That's all from me today.
All right, thank you very much for that presentation, Dr. Jeffrey. We greatly appreciate making time for us all today. Let me check in the chat box if we have any comments or questions. Okay, so there is a comment from Ben Wastinger. Brilliant presentation, Dr. Tom Jeffrey. Excellent, extremely thought-provoking and very important to remember that centralizing the human experience and social justice in museology can have a major impact on resilience. I appreciate how you have explored the intersection between the natural environment, heritage objects, and institutions, in brackets, museums. Nancy says, thank you for the presentation, which was extremely insightful. And Leomile, thank you so much for that brilliant presentation. So I think the sentiments are all the same. Thank you very much, Dr. Jeffrey. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Very much appreciated my side too.
Okay, so if we could all please just give Dr. Jeffrey a digital round of applause. All right, so this brings us to the end of day 4 and the end of our webinar. I would like to extend my gratitude to all of you for attending and sticking with us throughout the entire duration of this webinar. Thank you to our CEO, council executives, and senior managers, especially Ben, for affording us this opportunity to engage in this 4-day webinar. It has indeed been very informative, insightful, and an opportunity for us all to learn more about our heritage, as well as how we can preserve it for our current and future generations. Thank you as well to my manager, Margaret, who is here to support me today, as well as the comms team for all your hard work and a very well coordinated webinar. You wish to say something, Ben?
Yes, thank you so much to our wonderful program director, Ms. Kim Morgan. I would like to invite all of the guests who are online to please switch on your microphones. You have heard me correctly. Could you please switch on your microphones? And please give a big round of applause to our lovely program director, Ms. Kim Morgan, and our excellent presenters from today. Thank you.
Well done, Kim.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. The session is adjourned.
Thank you.